thank you all for coming. This is not nerve-wracking at all, I promise. This session is about email and reporting. Is anybody not expecting email and reporting? That's all right, you're all in the right session. That's the most important thing. Wonderful. Hello, come on in. Go on, Carl. I have my glamorous assistant, Carl, running the slides for me today. So, with email, 9 times out of 10 in organizations, this is the standard journey that everybody goes on. Anybody got anything weird and wonderful that they do that's not that? That's always a good start. So within the system, what we're talking about is acquisition, data capture forms, emails, however you do it, education. Remember that supporters are not those people that should just be doing that one thing, asking them to take an action, asking them to donate, asking them to take an action, asking them to donate. That's not what we should be doing. Next slide, Carl. And within the Engaging Networks framework, if you've got advocacy, fundraising, email, how many people here are not using email within Engaging Networks? Please tell me you all are, otherwise it's going to be an interesting challenge. Not yet, that's fine, Lee, you can stick around. Everybody using fundraising? Yes, everybody using advocacy? Relatively? Oh, okay, fine. The other thing that I would say is just remember that with all of the things that we talked about, there are tools within the platform to help you with things like acquisition. So you've got your data capture forms, cultivation, you've got your surveys, education, surveys, email to target, solicitation, could be about the money, could be about actions. Stewardship is probably one or more of all of those things. Phones out, come on, it's got to be audience participation. You've all been talked at for way too long. What I want you to do is just take a picture. It will take you to Mentimeter, and there are 12 options in terms of metrics that matter. You have 100 points that you can just disseminate across those 12 things that really matter to your organization. I'm going to leave you for a couple of minutes to just fill that in. You can show me a gentle show of hands if you've actually done it. And if you've turned up late, all you need to do is just take a picture. You'll be fine. Do you want to move to the next slide? He says. Because then hopefully when people fill it in, things will move. He says, crossing fingers. Real live demos, we all love them. Hey, things are moving. It's nice when things work, for a change. You obviously don't have to just use your 10 points in those. If it's more important to you, you can allocate more points. Everybody done something? Yeah? Awesome. Look at that. Sorry, it's absolutely fine. There's more than enough time in this presentation, I promise you. Cool. Obviously, my slides will be available on the wherever Engaging Network shares them, but they will be available afterwards, so it will keep a record of what this looks like in case you need it. Awesome. Next slide, Carl. Magic. So the key thing that I would say about metrics, you've all worked out some stuff. There are some stuff, engagement metrics, that are immediately available. There are some stuff that you can't get to until the piece of activity is finished. So things like average gift rates and stuff like that. And then there's longer term stuff, which is your program metrics that basically just look at things like average value, how many people have taken actions, what that looks like. So think about what you're measuring, where you're measuring it, and more importantly, how it's going to have an impact into how you're going to change your programs of work. Things that you can do around engagement metrics are things like landing pages. You've got different options. You've got split tests. You've seen all of those. You've got subject line tests on emails. We've got STO. Anybody know what STO stands for? I'm just making sure people are awake. Send time optimization. So one of the things within engaging networks is if you're international, you can make sure that you're using the right things. If you've got any questions about any of that stuff, there's a couple of people from engaging networks in the room. By all means, go and have a word with them. Donation tests. So we saw yesterday in Aura's presentation where Aura changed the values in terms of donation asks and stuff like that, and that's the type of stuff. Segmentation changes. How many people here just use their email list and send everything that they want to send as a blanket one email thing? You can show hands. I'm not judging, I promise. Perfect, well done. Thank you for being honest. Look at your segmentation. Look at what that looks like. Look at how people who engage regularly, what that looks like. Program tests are much more difficult. So things like changing retention rates, changing lifetime value, normally is all about supporter journeys and how you're actually mapping all the different touch points that you've got with supporters, not just within the digital space. But more importantly than anything, you have to be willing to change. There's no point measuring this stuff other than going, oh my God, I've got a 50% open rate. Way, the world's a happy place. You're going to have to look at it and work out whether it's right, wrong, indifferent, and what you can do to change it. Next slide. So how many people within your Engaging Networks account go in and look at any of the data stuff that's in the account? Do you just download transactional reports, or do you actually look at the reports that are within the system? Both. Cool, awesome. So the data stuff, the export is probably where most people go to download their transactions. There are these two options. So the visual reports, they're not great. That's the stuff that you saw yesterday around reporting. They are getting better. They're not perfect. They are getting better. But the one that is really important is the reports and data. Because when you click on that, you get these options, which are pre-canned reports. And the email one is the one that we're going to touch on today. So what I did was I ran that report for an organization that I'm currently working with for a year's worth of their data. Don't look too closely. It gives me when it was sent. It's really difficult using the transaction reports to find out when emails were sent. I appreciate that this is Eastern time, so you need to add some time to that, but at least you can see what it looks like. It gives you all your send details. So there are lots of people over the last 6 months who've asked me about sends. Whilst you can't get sends out of the system easily, there is that send information as a rolled up number. So if you just want rolled up numbers, this is a really useful report. It gives you your click-through rates. One of the things that we saw on the metrics that matter is lots of you care about your open rates and your click-through rates. There are 2 tick boxes, and Joe's going to demo this in his workshop afterwards, that allow you to see things around gifts. So I know that I've had conversations with people who are asking about conversions from email to actually income. This tells you that. You just have to tick the 2 boxes and it will tell you how that email has performed. So we can see that money's coming in or actions are being taken. So I think it's one of those reports that is just an unsung hero that lots of people don't know about because they're downloading the report and just playing with the data to try and get this type of stuff. It's already there. Just have a look at it. So what I did with this client, much to their disgust, I'm sure, was take a year's worth of email data and throw it at AI and just go, based on this, there's no personal data, it was just email sent and all the numbers. So give me 6 measures of success for this email campaign over the last 6 months, over the last year. Tell me 3 things that I need to watch and things that I need as a strategic delivery. I did that while I put the kettle on. I basically uploaded the file, asked AI a question, and that's what it came back with. So it doesn't take long, and you don't need specialist skills. You just need to think about the prompt. We saw what Glyn and Jack were doing at Versus Arthritis yesterday with Claude in terms of analysing their data and looking at their actions. Some of this stuff may be useful. Some of this stuff you may already know. Some of this stuff may actually be those wonderful nuggets of information. One of the things that I get asked on a regular basis is, it's great that you've produced a report, but what am I meant to do? And that's always the challenge when we build pretty numbers. So I just cheat, and I just threw it at AI and said, tell me what I'm meant to do, because I don't know. So there you go. You can do this really, really easy, really, really simple. So things that are going to affect reporting within the Engaging Networks account, folder structures. How many here are using folder structures? Good news, I think, at some point, I'm not going to put a date on it because that's always going to get me into hot water, but the folder structure that you've got on emails is hopefully, he says crossing fingers, coming to pages, so you'll have multiple levels. At the moment you can't have multiple levels, but there is plans, I believe, to put in multiple levels of folder structure. Be sensible when you start looking at folder structures. So I know some organizations have done it by teams, some people have done it by campaigns. Just think about how much stuff you're sending out and how you want to structure your pages. How many people here are using attributes against a page? You've been trained properly, that's all that is. Anybody else using attributes? Okay. You remember all that stuff I said right at the beginning in terms of a journey, education, cultivation? You could tag your pages with those types of stuff. You could tag your pages with those, you could tag your emails with those types of things. That means when you get to a reporting stage, you're looking for anything that's been tagged with cultivation, education, solicitation, whatever it is, because you may not be just doing fundraising pages, petitions, in terms of driving what that looks like. So it might be useful, and think about that as an organization. What attributes apply to the pages? So how would you group those pages together? Some people use folder structures and go, with the current situation where we've only got one folder structure, that's not great. For some organizations, they use thematic areas. So I'm working with an organization who does lots of stuff around petitions, around the NHS, around Brexit, around environmental issues. They're tags, they're attributes. It's really, really easy. So we know all of the individual things that they've done, but you can actually see and group those things and, more importantly, pull them out. Email links. How many, obviously all of you are using email within Engaging Networks. One of the most important things that I always try and suggest to people is the naming convention on the email link. You will have seen it if you had Paul's session yesterday, where he was talking about the work that I did with Rennie Grove Peace in terms of their one-click re-opt-in campaign when they merged. That was all done because of the email link, and I knew which link within an email they had clicked, and that was because of the naming convention. And emails are obviously like page names. Don't put email test 1 or email test 2 because we've got no idea what that means. Think about your naming convention. Think about if you've got a structure for what that looks like when you're running tests. Other things. How many people here define active supporters as, I don't know, 3 months, 2 years? Hands, please. Perfect. How many people do it differently? How many people say 3 years is an active supporter? How many people say 1 year is an active supporter? It's different depending on what people are doing. So if people are taking actions, what I've found is working with organizations, people who sign petitions, their definition of active is a lot less than what we call active in fundraising spaces. So normally in fundraising spaces, it's 2, maybe 3 years. In petitions and action type pages, it's somewhere between 3 and 6 months. So think about what these things mean to your organization. Make sure there's a clear understanding for your organization what you're talking about when you say active supporters, active engagement. What is engagement? Is engagement petitions? Is engagement data capture forms? Is it surveys? What do we mean when we talk about engagement? Lapsed and lapsing, I always love these, and dormant and all of the rest of that type of thing. Make sure you've got your organizational definitions, so when you're producing your reports, it's really, really clear what we're talking about. And obviously with Engaging Networks, you can have lots of different types of contacts. It's not easy to manage that within Engaging Networks because people are multifaceted. We want people to be multifaceted. We want them to be campaigners and donors and high-value donors and major donors and all the rest of it. So what you could do is think about how you just amalgamate all of those things into one field. So when you're using it in query or segments, you're looking for contains donor, contains campaigns. And it doesn't have to be their first thing. You just squish it all together and make a field. So the key thing with all of this stuff is test-driven development, it's called in programming terms. It's the test and learn methodology. So optimization, let's play with it, let's test it. Research, did it work? Do the metrics count what worked? And then planning when we're actually going to do something to change. Leave enough time. That's the most important thing. Lots of people do lots of tests and go, oh, I'm running another email, I need to do another test. When are you actually going to work out whether it was good, bad, or indifferent? So think about when is the right time to do those types of testing. The other thing that you can do, and I love this bit, is data blending. So within the account, within Engaging Networks, you've got your custom databases, so your political databases. I want to send a message to everybody who's now got a reform council. You can do that because that data's there. You just apply it to your account data structure. Make sure you've got a way of tying it back to your CRM system. How many people are using Engaging Networks as their CRM supporter record? How many people are not? Perfect. Hopefully you've got things like constituent IDs or contact IDs or whatever it is that ties the record back. The challenge is always going to be with things like email address, because within Engaging Networks, as we all know, email address is the unique identifier. It is quite possible that you've got shared email addresses, so just be careful when you're trying to marry that back to your supporter base. Census data. Anybody done any work with the census? Anybody know anything about census data? Magic. Okay, so the last census was carried out in 2021. It's carried out every 10 years, and as part of that, the data is then surfaced normally about 18 months afterwards, but it will tell you things like household makeup and what the price of houses are, what the family makeups of those things are based on the postcode area. It's free to access, it requires a little bit of manipulation, but you should be able to go out and find people who live in this area who have these types of challenges. So if you saw the work that Glyn was doing yesterday around people in social care, that type of stuff, you'll pull out of the census data. The other people who've got data that's sometimes useful is the ONS, the Office of National Statistics. That's not easy to say first thing in the morning. They have postcode data that then allow you to do things like lat long. How many people here were excited by the geolocation stuff? Wonderful. You need a way to get lat long into the system. The ONS has that, and it's refreshed on a monthly basis. So you can take that, look up a postcode, and get the lat long from that data. There's other demographic data that's out there. So it used to be called Claritas 100 years ago when I used to work in profiling. There are other things that you've got, probably within your CRM system, that may make sense to test when you're sending out email campaigns. Create some fields for it, create some questions for it, put it in, test it, see what happens. You're not losing anything, you've got that data. Ask the question. One of the things that I keep hearing during the last 2 days is people going, how do we know what supporters want? Well, you can ask them. It's not rocket science. Just ask them and store that somewhere and do something with it. If they don't want to give it to you, they won't give it to you. That's the thing. So just make sure you've got the options. And again, one of the things that I did, we talked about AI. Yesterday was a conversation about AI. There was a conversation around the developments around accessible intelligence. I took organizations who I'm working with again currently, who have got lots and lots of data. They've got lots and lots of petition data. So I took it at an action level, so transaction level. So in your Engaging Network system, you would download a transactions report of everybody who's taken a petition. And I just threw it at AI and said, create me some clusters, create me some cohorts of supporters that tell me something about how I should tackle these supporters and engage with them moving forward. This is what it came up with. I asked for 6 clusters. It counts from 0. Don't be confused, it's just a data programming thing. So it starts at 0 and ends at 5. But this gives you an idea of the different types of people that were identified during that group. So things like social watchdog, where they're mid-career professionals, I would communicate very, very differently than Green Guardians, who are younger and more eco-friendly. We need to think about that when we're talking about trying to attract younger audiences. I have lots of conversations with people who go, we've got an aging population of supporters. How many people here have got an aging population of supporters? As if by magic. Take your data, throw it at it. What have you got to lose? Nothing. Unless, of course, you think the whole version of AI is terrible and scary. And I get that. You've also got some AI segments coming at some point with the whole accessible intelligence stuff. You've got predefined segments within the account as well. So think about how you're going to use those types of things to help. So things to think about in your account data structure that's going to help you with all of this email management is political data. Whether you're campaigning or not, it may be useful to just append it to a record to just see what that means in terms of, are people who are in conservative areas very different in how they perform to people who are in reform areas? You may not need it for the actual targeting, but it may help you in the analysis piece afterwards. CRM matching, we've talked about this, so think about what that looks like. Personas, how many people here have got the ideal supporter profiles and personas within their organization? Perfect, well done. Think about what that looks like. Think about what your ideal supporter is for the regular giving product. So again, with Jack's session yesterday, he looked at how to recruit regular giving, what that looks like, what the overlaps were with different parts of the organization. How many people are using highest previous contribution within Engaging Networks? There you go. See, it's really, really useful. And again, one of those fields that you can populate, you need the highest previous contribution to be turned on. So if you haven't used it, talk to your ASM, your accounts service people, or talk to support people. Joe, is that all right? People to talk to you about turning things on in the perfect, awesome. Speak to Joe if you don't know. Profiles that came out of clustering, so social watchdogs, those types of things. You can store them against the account, and then you can look, if you're not using it for segmentation, you can look at it in terms of how people respond. It's just a different way to chop up your data. Things that we're seeing coming with AI is the ability to start looking at things like email campaigns. How many people have taken their email campaign, just run it through AI to just work out whether it's good, bad, or indifferent in terms of sentiment and measuring what that looks like? We've got this massive tool now that allows us to just chug through lots and lots and lots of data. Think about what you want to ask of your campaigns. Think about how you would tag your email campaigns. So I start with a picture at the top. I start with a picture halfway through. I start with this above the fold. I start with this further down. One of the organizations I was working with a couple of years ago was testing every image that they put on the page, they gave it a number. So they could then see how far down the email people were reading to actually work out whether people are actually getting to the end of the email in terms of when they clicked. So there's stuff around sentiment, keyword analysis that you can do really, really easily. Again, AI is there. I'm a fan, sort of, slightly scared, but yeah. And it wouldn't be me if I didn't talk about reporting. So we actually, Data Analytics, have a reporting suite that you can use that is just based on your Engaging Networks data. So it starts off with a set of KPIs. They're ragged. So red means you're more than 10% away from your target. Amber is within 10%. Green is you've completely smashed your targets. Surprise, surprise, this made-up charity has smashed most of their targets. Next slide. We've got stuff around emails, so we can see the open clicks, bounces. We can see email sends and when people respond. We've got things in terms of numbers, open clicks, those types of things. And then we take that data and then we look at people who are just one-hit wonders. They've only ever taken one action. They've done more than one thing. They've interacted more than with just the standard donation pages or engagement pages. And we build things like recency, frequency, value, scoring, so you can then use that to look at targeting or analytics in a different way. And then the last one is around petitions and advocacy. So again, we can look at what that looks like. We create numbers in terms of how many people have been targeted in what areas and what that looks like and what your top 5 petitions are. I promise that's the sales pitch over. So if you want to do this yourselves, the first thing I would recommend is audit your current reporting. Make sure you know what you're currently pulling out the system. Look, see if you need to change your KPIs and your alignments. Configure your reports. One of the things that you are aware of, I'm sure, is export groups within the account. Anybody not know what an export group is? Everybody knows what an export group is? Perfect. So you can configure your reports to work out what tracking, all the rest of it, that you care about. And then the last thing, and it's one of the things that I picked up again on Aura's presentation yesterday, was around the feedback loop. It's really, really important that we don't do this in a silo and just put people together and just go, is it working? Is it not working? Is it telling us something? I think that's it. So just to cover off what we've covered, measure what matters, work out what matters. I'll share the Mentimeter response so you can see what that looks like. Remember to engage supporters, not just asking them to take actions and make donations. Remember it's important to say thank you. Remember it's important to ask them what they want or how they want it. Surveys, e-cards, really, really useful functionality within the account to actually give a different way of engaging. So looking at things like how many gifts they've given, when they give their 10th gift, just sending them a thanks, you've been so supportive, those types of things. Reporting with engaging networks, our wonderful Joe is going to do a session around that email data thing that I showed you. Naming conventions and consistency. Try as much as possible. I appreciate most people are using engaging networks as part of a team. Think about what your naming conventions look like. Make sure it's understood by the whole team so you've got consistency. Test, test, test again. I'm a big fan of testing. Just use common sense. Make sure it's got meaningful supporters. So don't try testing with 50 supporters if your database is 1 million records. Use something that's meaningful. Data blending, I think there's a lot that can be done in this space around looking at external data sets and overlaying that with the data that you've already got of your supporters. Yay, I've done it. Thank you. And I've done it nearly to time as well. That's not bad. Questions? Have we got any? Joe, have we got any?
I added one to the app directly, but just wanting to know if you could share the prompt you used to get the cluster analysis. Is it?
I will find it and I will put it on the slide.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anything in the app, Joe? Nothing on the app. Everybody's bored completely with data and reporting.
No, it just means it was very clear.
Oh, you say all the right things, Aura. Stick around. Anything from anybody else? Wonderful. I'll hand over to Joe then. It's all Joe's. Cheers. Oh, I was going to say, anybody who asked a question got a pen, but if you want a pen, there's pens on the desk. I needed that gasp earlier.
Ask my question.